Good morning, good afternoon, happy Thursday. It's beautiful here in sunny Southern California. I hope it's beautiful where you are. Welcome to ReThink Live 2025. This is our very last ReThink Live of the year, and we are sad and yet very happy to be here. Welcome to our team from our National REthink Council. Just a quick announcement. New ReThink Council members will be announced later this month, so keep your ears and eyes on social media. We look forward to welcoming part of the new team. I'd like to thank our broker advisors, Maria Kazakos from Carolinas Realty and Vic Kuros from California Properties, for joining us today. And Maria is on top to lead us on our discussion about success strategies. That sort of, let's say, a splinter in our thumb that is super important to deal with and always troublesome to get started. So without further ado, Maria, take it away.
Thanks, Sandy. I love this time of year. Actually, I'm a summer person, but the redeeming quality of it getting cooler is football and being able to look ahead to start planning with a fresh start for the following year. So October is peak business planning season to start getting your mind thinking about what's gone well so far this year, what do I need to lean into to make sure I finish the year strong, but what do I want to start thinking about doubling down on in the year ahead. And so today we really want to look at how are you assessing the successes in your business, how are you, deciding on what you're not going to continue, what you want to pull the plug on, where are you spending money, and then looking forward to setting clear, actionable goals for the year ahead. And business planning sounds almost as fun as doing taxes, but it can be fun if you simplify it and don't spend too much time focusing on filling in all of the blanks and then not doing anything. So let's get started on how you all look back at your years. And Bernal, you're first on my screen, unlucky for you. So I'm going to tag you to get us started on, how do you look at your year?
Awesome. Well, one of the things I do around this time, usually like October, November, beginning of December, take a look back at all of my past 12 months of transactions and write down next to each one where they came from. If it was, a Zillow lead or a referral from a past client or a referral from a friend or a family member or something. And yeah, take it from there with if I'm also looking at my where I'm spending my marketing money, if there's things that I'm paying for that have not generated any business, I'm probably going to get rid of them and try to do something nice, a gift or a handwritten note or thank you card or something like that to the people who did send me referrals, because it's a good time of year to or it's a good time, always a good time to reach back out to people who have supported you and given you a referral or something like that.
So do you look at just this year's sales, or are you going back any further when you're kind of looking at your lead sources?
Usually just 1 year back, but also like I'll have I have my sheet from the year before too, which shows what like how many were from where what different marketing avenues that I'm doing. If it's a Realtor.com lead or I just got a Homes.com lead, like focus on where they're coming from. And at the end of like an end of year tally. So I would look back a little bit more than a year probably.
Awesome. Totally off topic, but you said Homes.com. Are you doing the paid Homes.com partnership, or just you're listing
No,
your lead?
no.
All
It was
right,
just
let's go.
a listing lead. Yeah. So yeah.
Nice. All right, who else has some strategies about how they assess the success for the year so far? We still have some year left. All right, Joe's off mute, so he's next.
Awesome. I'll jump in. So, like Burnell, I definitely am scientific about it where I really look at the year and look at our numbers. I try to see trends, especially like I noticed this year, like over 50% of our business was in a specific town and even certain neighborhoods. So I'm like definitely keeping note of that and doubling down. I think, October 1st to me, it kind of like the real estate new year because we're kind of looking 90 days out. So this is definitely the time for us with our planning. It's all about client care and appreciation. We're definitely having our client appreciation party coming up this quarter. Tons of calls, checking in, And I think just the more conversations, the more conversations that I can have about real estate, this is definitely the time that we do that, my team and I.
So, as you've tracked through the years, do you feel like any lines of business have increased or decreased, or is it pretty consistent year over year where you're getting your business?
Yeah, so our team, it's relatively consistent in that our sphere of influence is by far number one. That's how we run our business. So a lot of client care goes into that, and we get a lot of referrals based off of that, creating that kind of forever agent mentality that we have here at Berkshire Hathaway. But we do see little trends of like, oh, we ended up double ending this deal because of circle prospecting. We keep note of that. Open houses, like, oh, we generated a lead in that neighborhood. We have a big representation in that neighborhood. So running more open houses there. So we kind of see some of those trends, and we want to keep going further into that. And then, like Burnell was saying, kind of that mentality of use it or lose it. We'll definitely do an audit, and it's like, oh, we did this, but we're not generating anything from that. Like, we're definitely kicking that to the side, and we're going to dive in more of what's working, and then we'll look at adding in something new to the piece, for the new year. We usually try to add something new that we feel passionate about, for the next year.
You said something new, not a lot of new things. So, do you have some discipline about what you introduce and how you kind of decide what that new focused initiative would be?
Absolutely. So, this year we definitely implemented geo farming, and I felt like we created a really great list. I don't think the fruits of our labor came just yet, but I do feel confident that they'll come in the future. So it is based on specific, neighborhoods and kind of market research prior to going into it. It's not like, oh, this is new, this is trendy, let's try it. We're definitely more about researching and taking some time before diving in.
I love that because we do get, I mean, how many emails do we get a day with some sort of vendor selling us the new shiny thing that will help us in our business? And so we have to be very disciplined around what we choose to implement and measure it, which is hard because when you're busy, it's hard to set the time aside to do that. You
Absolutely.
mentioned open houses too. Anybody else want to jump in on their assessment of open houses this year? Is that an area that you need to continue focusing on? Is that traffic diminishing? How are we feeling about open houses?
I definitely love them. I'll just quickly say, I think they're a great source of business, especially with like the new way going about with buyer agency agreement. This year alone, I had a buyer come into our listing. We made a really good connection. I had a buyer consultation within 24 hours, BAC signed, and I now have them under contract for a property, and that happened in 3 weeks' time. So I still think it's an amazing resource, especially I think for newer agents, do as many open houses as possible, especially when you have the opportunity to work with your managing broker to get the experience from them. I think it's a great source.
Who else has some feedback on, as they look back at the year, what worked and what didn't? Alex, you're next on my list here. I'm going clockwise.
I got some feedback. If
All right, awesome, Joe.
Yeah, so for us, what really didn't work was with anything that we didn't stay consistent in. I mean, so for us, like farming is something that for him it's probably working for Joe, but we've tried it. We don't stay consistent with that, so that's really what hasn't worked. But what's worked for us is just really taking care of our clients and making the whole transaction state feel really special. Let them know that, we're there every step of the way, even after the transaction, checking in with them and checking in with our SOI, like frequently with not just the mailers, but like text messages. Just, I just had a client, my very first client that I helped 7 years ago that we've been in contact with for 7 years, never responds, but messaged me out of the blue to list his house. So we got his house sold and now he's moving to Texas.
Okay, so
Um,
7 years like used to be the magic number, right? And then we kind of moved away from that and said people are staying in their house longer. So there you go. Look at
yeah,
that.
yeah. So that, and that's not just that occasion. We just have a listing appointment today from another client that we've helped a few years ago. And just same thing, staying in contact, text messaging, mailers, and Google. staying updated with getting reviews, making sure after every transaction we get a review from like the lender, from anybody in the transaction, the inspector. And we get business like that quite a bit. So that's actually picked up this year with that.
That's a great strategy too. And I mean, to your point about being consistent, right? That's with everything. So farming has a long tail. If you're going to do it, you need to commit to the time frame it's going to take to start yielding results. But the Google My Business too, if you're not consistent on that and it's kind of out there and you're not leveraging it, that's significant. So who else gets reviews from home inspectors and other members of the, I guess, participants in the transaction? Do you send it every time to your home inspector or just, each time you close?
Oh, we do. We ask for pretty much anybody that's in the transaction, multiple
So
times from the same lender. Yeah.
to rate the same, I mean, to rate your service on that transaction, right? So
Yeah.
they're giving you a different review every time. That's awesome. Great strategy. Does anybody else have some good strategies that have worked well for them this year on Google My Business? I think that's a huge focus point.
I've not been consistent, but if I have some extra time, I'll go through my phone and send a link for reviews to a couple of past clients. If you have a couple extra minutes, just to do a bunch of them at the same time and send it out.
Do you do text or email?
Depends on the client. Some of them I know would prefer text if they're younger. If they're older, I might do an email. So yeah.
Nice. All right. Who's next on how they're looking back at the year?
I'll go. So every year I kind of like review not only like the number of transactions and what our initial goals were and like whether we hit them or not, but like Joe was mentioning, like the subscriptions parts, everything is just so easy to look at. Be like, oh, this is a cool app. Have I actually used it or not? So just really kind of like scaling back on the amount of apps that I've been using. And if I'm not, like I haven't used it for a couple of weeks, being like, all right, let me just go ahead and like cancel my subscription now before I forget it. Because if I actually need to go back and reuse it, okay, and re-download it, re-sign up or something like that. So that's been really helpful just like for my own mindset. We hired a like dedicated marketing person this year. And that's been great because that's kind of taken a lot of stuff off of my plate. I'm not having to spend as much time in like Canva or thinking about things. And then something that everyone on Rethink knows I've talked about a lot is we finally dived really deep into Monday.com this year. And for like me personally, that has been like game changer for my year. Rather than having like a million different papers all over my desk and having to utilize like Dropbox as much and just like having these like random thoughts going through. I'm like constantly texting people. I can have like my running to-do list. I used to have like my next 10 list I kept like on the wall in my office. That was a Jimmy Burgess thing. And I just kept like adding to it. And so that next 10 was like 20, 30 buyers, sellers. And so now I have all of that in Monday.com. And so when I'm on my morning walks, I can just kind of keep looking at it and then reach out to them from that list.
So did you set aside time to get set up in Monday.com? Because I think it's another pitfall that often we're like, oh yeah, this is a great platform, has all this functionality, a great CRM, and then we get in there, we're like, oh my God, it has too much functionality, and now I'm overwhelmed.
It has an overwhelming amount of functionality, but I kind of like broken it down over time. At
Right.
first, I was like, okay, what are the most important aspects that I need to be utilizing it for? And then like adding upon it. So I wasn't trying to do like 12 different like sheets in there at once.
Does anybody else kind of have a, I guess, project management platform that they've gone all in on that has worked well for them, or one that they've tried that they bailed on? Everyone's still writing it on the board on their wall.
I am actually a pen to paper person, so as cheesy as that is, yes, but I do think it's something I wanted to explore personally because I do think there's a method to madness there of being able to track it, especially if you have multiple team members working on a transaction, which is something our team operates in that way, where normally it's not just me that's involved. I've got someone else who's collaborating on it. My marketing gal is also in there. So I think that's something that would be great to look into. Right now, we will use Google Sheets that translates to everybody's and updates in real time, which is nice still. It's a level of organization, but definitely would love, that's something on my 2026 radar, to be honest, of what I want to find to implement that's more of a system, whether it's an app or a website or something. So
I love it. Grace, how do you look back at your year and kind of assess?
Personally, something that just hasn't been touched on that I think is a scary thing, but also a very real thing that we have to look at, is the budgeting side of it. I think knowing where we spent our dollars, where our dollars, came back to us and then some, and maybe where we didn't quite get it back at. So something that I am going to look into for 2025 to then kind of alter, or at least approach a little bit differently, more comprehensively in 26, is looking at approximately on average how many dollars are going into each listing. And I think I have to kind of put something out there of, every listing is different. It's not all treated the same. Every property is unique. Every seller is unique, their motivation, their timeline, all of the things. But I think respectively with that, I think there's a way for us to try and, when we're going into that listing appointment or so, and we're negotiating on our behalf and our skills, we want to make sure that we're putting it at a dollar price point or a commission, whatnot, for that property that makes sense, that we're going to make sure we can put our full time and passion into. So I'm going through and calculating, how much in video did we do? 2-3 different videos? How many photo sessions, a twilight, an interior, a drone, all the different things. Did we do broker opens? How many open houses? And I think it's, it seems a little bit nitty gritty to get into all of the details, but also at the end of the day, we have to treat our businesses as true businesses. So we do have to get to the bottom line of what we're spending dollars wise. So I personally an overview of it would basically, I'm going in, obviously pulling all the subscriptions that we kind of have already referenced, seeing what I'm using, what I'm not using. There's actually something like this year, a couple of different subscriptions that I'm upgrading my plan, that I want to try and get more out of that subscription because I'm using it very often. And I want the next best part of what's available. And then obviously putting any advertising into its own category. And when I say that, the advertising category is not just one thing. It is 15, 20 different things between quarter one pop by, quarter two pop by, quarter three, my Christmas client event that I do, mailers, I do a monthly newsletter. I make sure I really get it into as many details as possible, because that's let me this year. I do feel like my business is much more profitable this year because I'm more diligent with my dollars and where they're going, rather than just saying okay, buy it and we'll figure it out later. That can be a scary thing. So I think being able to look back at it in such detail it's tough and annoying to do right now, but I think it will be worth it. So
What are you using? What platform are you using to track your expenses?
QuickBooks is what I use personally, because there's an app for it. So for receipt tracking too, I can always just take a picture of the receipt. It tags it to that transaction, and then before I've tried to put my receipts in envelopes and bags everywhere and it's floating around, would not be good. So this is a much cleaner solution, and it's just easy. Again, app, it's a very usable app, but also I think the website online on my computer is much more comprehensive. So, and it will auto populate my expenses too, which is nice. So if it sees I stopped at a Hy-Vee gas station for X amount of dollars, it kind of AIs it in a sense of this is fuel, which is kind of nice, just so that I'm not going through, if I stop at Starbucks or something, it will kind of categorize it for me.
That's awesome. And you said you're going to double down on a couple of apps. Anything that sticks out in particular that you found to be very useful?
There's a couple of different, Canva Pro is something I've obviously had it for myself, but now we're making sure we expand that to our entire team if they're not already using it. It's something that I think everybody should be on Canva Pro. It's very much so worth the money. If you're not, QuickBooks, we've upgraded our subscription there actually, because I think it's something, there is a basic subscription that will get you by, but I think if you can go a little bit more in detail, it helps, especially if you have any payroll that needs to come out of there. That's really helpful in being streamlined. It just kind of auto populates it for you. It does a couple of tax situations automated, which is nice. So those are two that come to mind right off the bat.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yumi, how do you assess what worked and what didn't?
So I have a one-on-one with my broker every week. So we make small changes throughout the year, but this year I stopped sponsoring this kickball team that I was sponsoring for the last 2 years. I didn't get much out of or anything out of it, and that was taking a pretty large portion of my budgeting. So this year I went hard on boosting Facebook and Instagram, which has done very, very well. So definitely going to continue on next year. Also, and it's the content too. It's not just the boosting, but I figured, the longer I do it, I started realizing when it's educational, I get more responses. So those I spend a little more than if it was just, a weekly boost. I This year I was very listing heavy, so I've leveraged my listings to, get more listings, which has done pretty well too. So if whenever I have a listings, I'll boost it on, all the platforms. Also, before I wasn't a believer in those just listed and just sold type of mailers. It hasn't worked previously, but this year, it has, and it's not even just the mailers, but also hanging the listing property info on the yard sign. That is free and it's actually worked. I've gotten calls from 3 of the neighbors. One ended up listing their home, not the home that was not in the community that I had a listing, but their second home. So, things that work doesn't necessarily always cost money, but if you don't track it, you don't know. So throughout the year, I make sure, you know, I write down where the leads are coming from, the source of the leads, how it's connected to, and then that way the following year I'm better at budgeting, I guess.
I love it. And I love your commitment to the weekly coaching too. That accountability piece is critical. So that's fantastic. All right, Ryan, how do you look back at the year, my friend?
I don't know. It's been a good year. I'm definitely have started looking and comparing, not necessarily apples to apples, at like volume, or the amount of listings, comparing, okay, I had 16 listings this year, but last year I had 21. I'd have looked to see, like out of the listings, like I've interviewed for, how many of them did I get? Are the percentages close? Or did they even, did they list at all? This year, there's been a lot of people who have decided like, oh, like the numbers aren't where we want them to be, or I've referred a lot of stuff to our property management department, just because the cost of selling usually runs anywhere from 6 to 10%, and the bottom line. But I've done a lot of reflecting for that. I do think you've got to spend money to make money, but I, like everyone else, you've got to know what you're spending on and track your spending. I have said before, like we know so many people are in President's Circle or Chairman's Club, and they get 280,000 in GCI, but like how much are they actually bringing home once they've paid Uncle Sam, paid the franchise fee, had their split, and then the marketing. I mean, if you take a listing today, you're gonna, I mean, with twilight photos, drone photos, depending on what's going on, I mean, you're already in, I mean, I would say close to $1,000, here in Virginia with, our rates, especially if you send out like 200 just listed or just sold cards. Some of the things I've cut back on or changed this year is farming, I found to be very expensive. I know Joe talks about it, and I think he has done it very intelligently, where he has a list that he targeted of like homeowners that have been in their homes for a certain amount of time and whatnot. Whereas I took a list and there's 300 houses in this neighborhood. I mailed all 300 of them. And so while that was easier to do, I think it was probably, if they had just bought the house last week or 6 months ago, maybe probably not going to be someone to target. But I have changed. I've signed up for the reminder media, and I'm started sending those out to, like all my past clients. Some people in my referrals, my dentist office gets one, barbershop I go to gets one. So I'm hoping that something like that will be a more better ROI on my investment for spending.
So focusing more on people that already kind of have some exposure to you, know you, like you, trust you to some degree.
Correct. And providing an actual item of value, as opposed to like mailing out, I mean, the postcards that just listed, that just sold.
Joe, to curate your list for farming, did you use a specific platform to collect, the target audience that you wanted to create?
So I use like our local MLS. I also worked with a BHHS tool with Cold Realty, so finding email addresses, so the whole thing with geo farming is like we have the whole mailing process, but there's also the whole back end of, you can go with Chalk Digital, Cold Realty. So there's different ways that you could reach in farming, which I think if you do a collective of all of it, that's where you're gonna have your best chance of success.
I love it. All right, who hasn't chimed in? Amber, I know you've got some great ideas around business planning, but how do you assess your success for this year?
Yes. So I'm huge on spreadsheets. I absolutely love Google Sheets. I have a freak in the sheets mug that someone got me because I'm so obsessed. So that's a good thing.
I don't
It's a
think that's
great
what it
way.
meant. I don't think that's what it meant,
Yeah.
Amber.
Well, what a party it can be, right? So I'm totally gonna start blushing now, Maria. Good job.
Sorry, that's what I'm here for.
I love it. Now, with that, you can track everything, right? I've got different sheets for different things, and I have absolutely every transaction. As soon as it's pending, it's in there. If it's a listing, it's on another tab. So I can look back at that really easily and see how many listings do I have, where did the lead come from for my listings. I track like how long they were on market, all of that stuff right there. As an independent person, I love the reminders app on your iPhone. So if you need a to-do list that's on you always and you have an iPhone and you're not using your reminders app, I highly encourage you to start doing that. For a team, I don't think it would work as great. I think you're going to want to look at Monday or something like Alexandra's doing. But for just a single person, you can set what day you want it on. You can make them reoccurring. It is the best to-do list system I've ever had. And if you're a Mac user, it goes automatically everywhere. It's on your iPad, your Mac, your iPhone, all automatically. So that's a huge time saver to keep you on track. I am one of the bad ones that like I just throw money at it, right? Like I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Let's go do it. And then at the end of the year, I kind of go back and reassess and see what did I end up spending? What was my, profit after all of the marketing and stuff on each listing? I more so do look at each listing. I don't do a ton of deep dive into all of the expenses. I know I'm in the black, so that's a good thing. I have one other thing, but I cannot think of it right now. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
Well, let's transition
Ooh,
to looking ahead
so
then.
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Maria, I thought of it.
We're here.
I am mainly referral and sphere. So at the end of every year, I do an annual evaluation. This was something Gino talked about years ago at convention. It just solidifies you as the true advisor, and you give them a really short snippet, like a 10-minute CMA put together, and just talk about this is your range of value right now. Make sure you're insured properly. You're not underinsured. Make sure your financial planner knows about it. I give that to every single one of my past clients. So I do like 150 every year on getting that business back up for the following year.
That's a really good point about the insurance too right now, because if you look at, every market is up since COVID, 50%-ish is the average in the United States of America. How many people have sat down with their insurance provider to make sure that they're insured properly? So that's a huge value add. And now I'm going to go do that this afternoon. So thank you, Amber. That's awesome. A little bit of anxiety there. How do you business plan, Amber? I know that you're a Ninja follower, but how are you preparing for 2026?
Yes, our brokerage lives Ninja selling through and through, and we all sit down together and do Ninja planning together as a group. The fall planning session is a little bit more intense. It's about a 3-hour time commitment, but it's so worth it when you're starting with your why, you're going through everything and just getting that refresher too. If you have the Ninja selling, I highly, highly encourage doing the Ninja planning every year. And then that's going to get your number for what you actually need to make your goals become a reality. And then you can see what you need to plan for that year and have really good actionable steps from that course to set you on the right path. They now, just this last year was the first time that they did a halftime, or at least was the first time I knew about the halftime. In the summer, it was only a 3-pager versus the whole kind of workbook. And it was a much shorter, maybe an hour, hour and a half class to say, hey, we're at halftime. Where are you at? Are you on track? Are you behind? There's still time. What do we need to do? That was amazing. Total game changer. So if you're into Ninja, or if you haven't done Ninja yet, 10 out of 10 recommend. And that is how I business plan.
So the Ninja business plan, you mentioned that you're arriving at your number based on what you want to achieve in your life. Tell us a little bit more about that, the format.
Yes. So it has you do like all of the normal budgeting stuff, right? So your bills, everything like that. But then it also has you dream, right? Like Do you want to put your kids through college? Do you want to go to France? Do you want to, like, what are your big dreams? Do you want to buy a lake home? What do you want to do? Okay, you want to buy a lake home. Well, let's take 20% of what's your down payment look like? Let's put it in the plan. What does saving for your kids' college look like? Let's put it in the plan. So now you're not just working to pay your bills, you're working to fund your future. You're working to fund your goals. And I think that just changes, right? It changes the endorphins in your mind, it changes everything, and it gets you excited to get back out there and do your job again. We all know it can be a grind and we can get burnt out, and it kind of just lights that fire back up when sometimes it gets a little low.
Yes, I would
I
say
jump in,
that
Maria. There's
yes,
a question.
ma'am.
There's a question in chat that I think is important. We all talked about Ninja like everyone knows what Ninja is. Amber, can you share a little bit about Ninja, please?
Yes, sorry, it's like being in real estate and the acronyms. We drop them like crazy and we just assume everyone knows. Nobody, that's not true. Yes, so Ninja Selling is a coaching. It's a sales coaching. It is largely targeted at real estate. It began with real estate. They're out of Fort Collins, Colorado, the group Real Estate, and they do all types of selling, coaching, and leadership training now. But it is very sphere focused. It is very referral, repeat and referral, working with people you know, like, and trust. No part of it at all do you ever ask for business. It is just loving on your people, asking the right question. They refer to Ford questions, which is family, occupation, recreation, dreams for Ford, asking those questions to your clients and the people that you're interacting with, even just like at anywhere. And then they already know what you do. And then they come back to you. And in my first year of doing the Ninja installation, I tripled my business in 1 year. And granted, I was kind of at that 5-year threshold where things take hold, but I went from 2.7 to like 7 point something million in 1 year. So it's a lot of mindset too. Gratitudes every morning, affirmations daily, rewiring your non-conscious or subconscious programming. It's very, very good.
I also doubled my business the year after Ninja, so I'm a Ninja person. I feel like if you work the system, it works. And it's a lot of what we already do, right? Taking care of our people and the customer service piece, but putting the relationship first. But what I like about that business plan too, Amber, that you shared, is that it's starting with your why, right? Why are you getting out of bed in the morning? Why are we doing this? We're passionate about being in the service industry, but we're also passionate about our dreams. And so it kind of marries the two, your personal and your professional life. So who else has some great strategies about how they track their action items for the year ahead?
Yeah, I'll chime in with as far as like, I think a big thing is like goal setting and goals, that could be I think intimidating, especially heading into a new year and writing them down. I feel like sometimes when I've been in collective masterminds, some are like, yeah, I don't really write down my goals, or like it hasn't necessarily worked for me. Other people are really about it. I personally, when I took the dive to start writing down goals, I think things really changed for me. Personally as well. You could have personal goals and business goals. You can combine them together, but I like having different types of goals. So there's like outcome goals, which is, I want to sell 40 houses this year. I think that's like a great goal, and setting it up that way versus like I want to sell 4 houses every month, because in January, if you don't sell 4, then you're like kind of giving up on the goal. So like aligning it so it works throughout the year. And then process goals. One of mine is writing 10 personal notes every week. That's something about Ninja, Buffini, etc. Just writing personal notes, and to stay consistent, I made it a process goal where I have to write 10 every week, and I track that. And then I like educational goals as well. So my thing this year was like, I need to keep diving more into AI. I don't want to be afraid of it. I want to keep just playing with it, Chat GPT, and then kind of taking this from Rajiv Saj at Fox and Roach. He has a sticky note that says, "Can AI help me with this?" And I think that's like a great thing to like keep in mind. We have these new tools that have come about this year that could be really helpful. So I think goal setting is really helpful for me heading into the new year and creating a business plan that's going to work for me.
I love how you break it out, like the lead measures, right, and the lag measures. So I want to sell 40 houses, but what am I doing day to day, week to week to get there? Like the action items. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
Joe, how do you all plan?
We, well, we audit everything we've done throughout the year, and then we see what's worked and what hasn't. And then for planning, we starting right about now, we go through all our systems, so we make sure we have like a system for our open houses, our, our reaching out to our SOIs, our buyer process, our seller process, and tweaking it. And I believe we've done that already. So we start that right around this time. Most of that's done, and we try to get ahead of everything. So by the time January comes, we're not trying to implement those things and feel like we're trying to play catch up. We just want to get ahead of being prepared for the year. And then we do goal planning as well. We see how many people we want to help this year. And so we don't set like a monthly, we just have a goal in mind of how many people we want to help. And we track that. We use Excel sheets and track everything on there and just to make sure we're on track. It might feel like you're behind at some time, throughout the year, but somehow at the end of the year, it works because we stay on track.
You manifest it. Well, and I love how you said we decide how many people we want to help this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not, how many deals we want to do. And that's just how you
Yeah.
approach your business.
Yeah. We don't really try to, although, it's nice to have large deals, but we don't set like a money goal. Just, and that's something my wife and I talked about before because I'm a little more frugal on trying to spend stuff, and she like let's love on them, and I'm like let's look at the cost of all this, and she's the one that really like said let's focus on how many people we help, and then that just really turns into helping more people because they really feel that, and then they're not afraid to refer us, um and yeah, that just turns into more business.
That's awesome. Alexandra, what's your business planning strategy? How do you prepare for the new year?
So we sit down as a team. We come up with like our individual goals and then our team goals. Similar to Joe and Letty, it's more of a like number of units, not like a volume based. And then sometimes we have to rein it in. And we're like, okay, we know that you say you may want to sell 36 houses, but today you've only sold X amount. Let's have this realistic goal. So you're not in like January or February being like, well, I'm not anywhere near my goal, so I'm just going to give up for the year. So it's like, okay, is 36 realistic? No, let's kind of bring it down so then we can kind of review them monthly or quarterly.
So you have like a stretch goal, but then you kind of have the one that you can see a clear path to.
Correct.
That's awesome. Who else has some good advice for this time of year and you're preparing for 26? Ryan.
I try to do 3 touches between in the third quarter or we're in the fourth quarter between for the 3 months. So it's pretty flexible. Like I just hosted a client appreciation event at the pumpkin patch last weekend. So of course, like I posted on social media about the event, but I actually tried to reach out to everybody in my sphere and at least send them a text like, hey, hope to see you. And even if they don't have kids, like this would make a great like day date, like, go to the brewery right down the street afterwards, type thing. And that really created a lot of good conversations, reconnecting with people, like even if they were out of town and couldn't come, then certainly the conversations were started. And so that's made me feel good about success with that. And then I'll come up with something. I send out, when I send out our holiday cards, I send out the holiday cards that like my husband and I send out. It's not a business. It doesn't say Berkshire Hathaway Home Services on it. It's like, we've had a great year, wishing you love, joy, happiness, this season. And so I feel like it's something that is like, okay, this is personal. It's the same one that I send to my mother and my cousins and everybody else. And then my biggest thing I do, and I can't say it enough, but I've got like 3 listing appointments from it this year that is tangible and trackable, from just last year, is I pass out wrapping paper, and it's a whole like, thank you, let's wrap up, your holiday season or wrap up 2025. And I buy it at Lidl. I've bought it at the Dollar Tree in the past, and I will take it to everybody in my sphere gets it. I'll stop by my dentist's office and give it to the um, like my dental hygienist, the lady at the front desk. I take it in when I go to the bank to get cash, like to give my nephews. I'm like giving it to the teller. But all my past clients in Sphere, as many as I can. And then last year, and this is where it was successful, was I took it to the just every house I sold last year that I had sent out. You know, you took the listing, you sent out a just listed, you sent out a just sold. I went back and on that street, like if you could see it, like I did 10 to 20, depending on the neighborhood, along the way, but I took wrapping paper along the street. And when I got those calls back, it was like, oh, like you brought the wrapping paper. Not only, you know, they know I sold their neighbor's house, but you brought us wrapping paper. And I think it's just very memorable. It's very practical. People love it.
Yeah, no one is going to be upset with you if you give them an extra roll of wrapping paper in December, ever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I mean, I have tried to figure out like what can you do in the summertime to get the same effect, and there's nothing out there. I mean, like you can't do. I mean, popsicles or I mean, there's nothing that's. I mean, there's cute pop buys all of the year, but for some people, for some reason, like the wrapping paper is just so practical.
because it's never been like 10 o'clock at night and me be looking for mustard, but I've been looking for wrapping paper at 10 o'clock at night. So you would have bailed me out. I like that.
Bessie Berry's offering floaties might be a good summer one.
Oh yeah, that's true.
What do you say, floaties?
Floaties, like for
I like
summer,
that.
right in a pool.
Yeah.
I think
All right.
squirt gun.
So who else has some strategies about how they're leaning in? You know, as Ryan said, Q4. I mean, we're planning for 26, but planning for 26 means staying in our sphere right now for the next 3 months, going into the holiday season. So, what are you doing to finish the year strong?
I'll jump in here for a little bit. Finishing the year strong is something when I'm analyzing all my past closings, also look at the clients that I've maybe showed a few houses to, wrote a few offers, and they decided to wait. It's a good time to just send them a text like, hey, hope you're having a great holiday season or whatever. But just something to reach back out to a bunch of those people that kind of fell by the wayside maybe, or you talk to them about listing their house and they were like, we're gonna maybe wait a few more years, like just to jump back in front of them and be top of mind again, which I guess kind of would be looking more towards 2026 than finishing the year strong. But it's still good to reach back out to the people that they've already sort of worked with you but didn't close yet.
That's awesome. Grace, what do you do this time of year to stay in flow with your people?
I would say Q4. I do a pop by every quarter. And I like a note about pop buys. Like I think it's really important. They can become an easy like drop on the front porch and leave situation, but I do think you have to make them intentional if you're going to put your money and your time towards it. So making sure, I did in November of last year, I had sent out an application or a form for people to fill out, basically picking which pie they wanted from Village Inn for a flavor. And then I gave them like 2 days and then 2 different time blocks on those days, like a 3-hour time block of like, will you be home on any of these? Some people won't, you won't catch all of them, but it did take more time driving wise, but I then mapped it out based off of when they were going to be home. So I could have an intentional 10 minutes with them to catch up. How's the holiday season coming along? How's the house? How's the kids? How's life? And it was very fulfilling. I think it was one of those things where it's like, we get to take a second and like not be realtor Grace. Like it was just a good human to human conversation to check in. And I think that that's also what can like longevity wise with those relationships then kind of deepens that trust, that relationship, that connection. And I just had a lot of people who would text me after like, that was just so great to catch up with you, wishing you all the best. I mean, it just, again, it kind of keeps it more, it humanizes it. So make sure like if you're able to try and make it more of an intentional drop off, I would recommend it. It was something that then also secured, I mean, transactions at the end of it, it was for sure this year I've seen a return on that. But again, I think my goal was more so just to check in on my people. Not texts are easy, but the face-to-face is priceless. So that was something on those pop buys, but my fourth quarter holds a lot of stuff. In October, they get a big bag of Vicks popcorn. That's like like the white, but also like the purple, the black, the orange, all the Halloween colors. It's fun and festive. They get that for a pop by Thanksgiving time. It is the Monday and Tuesday leading up to Thanksgiving. This year, I think it'll also be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just with how many we need to do. But it's a pie drop off to their front door with a conversation. The popcorn is one that I will like send a selfie in front of their house or send it on their front porch and like send them a text of like, hey, just drop this off for you. Which that's always just it's not the face to face, but it's something rather than just like drop and go. And then in December, I do a holiday movie event. So I host at the movie theater. We have like 30 different raffle giveaways. Everyone gets like 5 raffle tickets. We do 2 different movies. They pick which one. All the kiddos get free popcorn. Santa's there. It's a really great time. With that, I do a follow-up of every kiddo, like we'll write a little note to Santa, and then they get a note back from Santa that next week of like, it was so great to see you. Like, I mean, which is just makes their day. The parents always send like a thank you for that, which I think is always fun. And I also do a gingerbread.
Let's pause on the Santa because I got
Yes.
I got one this year. You can actually send them to like Alaska and then it comes back with the North Pole stamp. This is a thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
That
gonna
is
have
a
to get
thing.
that info from you guys. Okay, that is clever. I love
Yeah,
that.
next level. And then my child cried because she knew that she had been bad, and then she got the letter from Santa. Even though the letter was nice, she's like, "Oh man, he's real." So it works.
It puts it in check, I suppose. So,
Yes.
oh my goodness, I love that. Okay, I'll definitely have to do that. But that's just like a layer of it. I think seeing them in person, doing the event, that's great. But that's just like a touch that parents. I know, like when I was growing up, the realtor that my parents worked with always went above and beyond. Like, what are the kiddos? What will make their day? Because what makes the kiddos' day really makes the parents too. So I always try and make sure it's a full circle situation. Having appreciated it in the past myself. But then one thing that I've done since the first year of my business, I think it's like it'll be our 5th or 6th one that we're doing this year, is a gingerbread house contest because it kind of relates to real estate. But I drop off a pre-built gingerbread house with a big bag of like all sorts of different cookies or not cookies, candies that they can decorate with. And then they send in a picture of their house with the title of what they want to call it. And I cap it at 25 is what I've had to start doing just because we had gotten to like 38 one year and it was a little bit too much. But it goes up on my Facebook page, and then that way I tag them so it shows up on their timelines. But then they share it to all of their folks. So my name's being circulated, and I mean, I think last year's post had over 100,000 impressions, but then also, I mean, just a matter of shares. The number one year was like 5,000 likes. So it's like, it's crazy. Your name is just in front of people while getting to do a really fun thing for your clients. So that's one thing that I do in December that goes really well.
So do people vote on their favorite, or do you select a favorite?
I stay out of it completely. I don't vote whatsoever.
Smart.
Yep. Everyone will get something, which, you know, I always want to make sure like everyone gets a thank you for the time and appreciation and effort into it. But there is a top 5 that there's cash prizes for that too of your efforts and everything. So
That's awesome. I love it. Much like open houses, right? You get out what you put in. I feel like your approach to pop buys, some people intentionally try and drop it off when the people are not home, so they can move through it quicker. And so your intentionality about, in a manageable way, setting up a time to make sure you get face to face, I'm sure contributes to your return on that investment.
yeah, I used to be one of those drop it off and go, and I realized the second I turned that around, it was night and day for me of like, I walked away feeling like with a really full heart, but then also the return was obviously great too. So
There's a quick question in chat, Grace. When you're choosing the people that you're doing pop buys for, and is it every client of your past? Is it just your current clients? Is it a farming area? What are you doing?
mine it's past clients, and it's tough because once I start my list and I'm like, well, I can't take them off of it because that's something of like, once you're on it, like you're hearing from me as much as you can hear without me annoying you. So I want them to make sure I'm touching all of my clients in a sense, but I have now started to categorize it. Like in the summertime, my pop by that I did was basically like school's out, and I filled a like sandcastle bucket with like popsicles, water guns, water balloons, like all sorts of fun things. So any kiddo that was like in that range of like 3 years old to like 12 years old-ish, and it all ranged. There's a whole different plethora of things that are in there. That was kind of targeted towards. And then I had done like the Starbucks like where like not everyone used it, but I would basically send like a Starbucks gift card link that they can go scan it and like their coffee is covered. That would go to the folks that maybe don't have kiddos or their kids are older, that sort of thing. So it just depends. I've had to get more strategic on it. The pies takes a long time because I do pretty much go to every single past client for the most part. Especially if like we've managed to stay in touch and everything's going great and all the things, they get it. So that one can be a lot. But the other ones I do for the sake of time and, dollars and all the things, I do have to get a little bit strategic. And I want to make sure when they're getting it, it's something they're going to use. I don't want it to be like, oh, like that was nice, but throw it in the trash can. Like we're not going to use this. So
Fabulous.
Love it.
If
Amber.
you want to do, just to add on to the pies, if you wanted to do kind of a hybrid, our brokerage does a drive-by pie event where we have all of our clients come and drive through and pick up their pies. So we still get to see them and chat with them for a few minutes. It's not quite all of the warm and fuzzies, but it's a lot more time efficient. So just
that's
an
a great
option.
idea.
And if you reach out to them also, if you do it that way, Amber, you can kind of you can have a pumpkin and an apple or whatever, and they have to kind of order it. And that way there's a reason to reach out and say, hey, come by and get it because I'm bringing you one or the other. You're not bringing both to their house. They can pick. So there's a benefit to that. Alexandra, I know you have some great ideas about Q4 and ending strong.
So from the team level, we either alternate between like some type of like pumpkin patch or pie events, and we're like Grace. But the week of Thanksgiving, I send a text message to everyone, not just my clients, but like my vendors, other agents that I've worked with, and it's just kind of thing like, I enjoy working with you this year. Hope you have a great holiday season, whatever it's gonna say. And people are kind of just a little bit like more calmer. They're not kind of like at the end of the year rush. So it kind of has that back and forth conversations. I really set aside like a lot of time that week of Thanksgiving to just like message like every single person. I started my, I just go down my entire phone book.
Wow.
And it's a lot. It takes me a few days, but that's been great because then people are like, oh, we're thinking about, buying or selling, or hey, thank you so much for thinking about us. And other agents are also like really appreciative about it. 'Cause they're like, oh, I'm looking forward to like working with you again next year. And we were having like multiple offers a couple years ago. Like they were like, it helped in that situation as well. Cause they're like, you're not just reaching out to me because we need to get a deal done. Like we work well together.
No, that's awesome. And we all know that it matters who's on the other side. Your stress level is immediately impacted when you see who's writing the offer. So I'm sure they're excited to see your name come across. Who else has some good strategies for year end?
I have something really quick, kind of it sparked after Alexandra just mentioned that. I know prospecting or like making the phone calls can sometimes be like an ugly thing to think about for some of us, or it just is uncomfortable to get into. I think November is like the perfect month to kind of break the ice if it's something that maybe you're newer to. Put a list of 5-10 names together, and that week leading up to Thanksgiving, call simply just with gratitude, with appreciation for their support of your real estate business, for buying or selling with you that year. Just always, I think that's a perfect time because you're not asking for anything, and I don't ask for anything unless they're offering something. I mean, I would just simply let it be a gratitude situation. We did that with our team last year. And afterwards, I mean, oh my goodness, everyone was like beaming. They're like, okay, those phone calls were so easy. I want to keep doing them. And I know, again, it's an uncomfortable thing if you're newer to it, or maybe like, if you're not staying consistent with it, that's a great time to maybe give yourself 2 weeks leading up to it. Make 5 calls a day simply out of gratitude and appreciation for their support. I promise you will feel better, but you'll warm up to the idea of making those phone calls. So.
I love that because, the phone does get heavy sometimes. You're like, oh, God, it's time to make calls. And what do I say when I call? Because I forgot to call them for the last year and a half, so now it's going to be awkward. So
I said this was a good icebreaker, so.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
All right.
Maria.
So go
I was
ahead.
going to say too, just piggybacking off of Grace, the thing too about calls is like sometimes people don't answer, but voicemails work really well. Like the amount of times I've had a text, like even a week later, so sorry I couldn't pick up, but I really appreciated your message. There's other ways too. You could leave a voice text message, or, if you're really feeling confident, you could do a voice, you could do a video text as well. So there's really a lot of ways that you could reach out. And when you're on the phone, I think sometimes people are like, well, I'm going to share gratitude. You could simply do the Ninja forward method, which is family, occupation, recreation, dreams. So you kind of ask them about how things are going. It keeps the conversation in a nice flow. So those are things that I do.
I love it. And ever since the scheduled text feature came along, you can get a head start if you're going to be texting on some of those video messages or texts and schedule them for the week of Thanksgiving too, which is awesome. All right, I know we want to leave some time for Q&A. Sandy, is there anything that came through the chat that we want to ask the crew here?
Yes, we do have a question from, let's see, Gary asking about expireds. Does anyone have working expireds built into their success strategy?
I built my business on expireds when I first got to the business, but of course the market's changed, and so there have not been as many. But I will say that consistency, is certainly helpful with that. And again, don't be afraid to knock on their door. When you take pop-bys, take them a pop-by. When you have an open house, invite them to the open house. When you are sending out your just listed, just solds, like I would have a list of like the 24 expires I was tracking, and I would, add them to my 200 names or whatever. So like they got every just listed, every just sold. So like when I showed up on their door, they knew who I was. And, I knew like if I was tracking, 8 of them, that I would get an appointment with at least one. So, cause some people, they're unrealistic. Some people are going to be loyal to their agent, which I can respect. Some people have totally just changed their mind and wanted to rent out the house, but it's that to me is a numbers game, and it's all about, putting yourself out there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Jesse in the chat commented about supporting nonprofits or community organizations. And I know many of you do that as part of your regular plans. Besides the Sunshine Kids, which is near and dear to all of our hearts, Amber, the company that Amber's at up in Fargo, North Dakota, does a huge golf tournament. But does anybody else got a special outreach that they do? I think, Ryan, you do. Don't you do socks or something? Don't I remember?
What for a particular? I don't
support a charity. No, anybody?
Not on a professional. I did. I ran the Chicago Marathon for American Cancer, and that, a lot of my past clients were supportive of that, and put myself out there, and that's, them getting to know me and outside of the transaction. But yeah.
Perfect. We've done, we support the food banks in North Carolina, and that's kind of a pop-by opportunity as well this time of year. We brand bags, and we'll leave them on the front doorstep of our clients and say, hey, if you want to fill this up, I'll come back and pick it up. Or if you want to just leave something on the doorstep and just shoot me a text. So it presents a pop-by opportunity.
I think those are always great ideas, and certainly every one of you I know gives back to the community in many ways. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your talent with the network today. I did want to highlight something. I'm putting it in chat right now, which is the Strategic Business Planning Series. Since we've piqued all of your interest network-wide for what are the next steps, know that this is a 4-part series that you can take every day. Once a week on Wednesdays starting next week. So we'll define and clarify your vision. So there's your why, Amber. Build your strategic plan of action. And track your progress with a compelling scorecard, and then unlocking your potential. So thinking about what kind of business you're creating, and then moving forward to create that. So thank you all for your time. We are excited to be a part of the network. And if you have questions, please reach out to us at our email address, which Michaela will put in our chat box just now. Have a great day, everyone.
Great to see everyone. Thanks for joining.